How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Lift Excelsior channel. This is going to be how to use my custom script NewBuild to make your own hand-coded skyscraper sim buildings. So I assume if you're watching this you already have the portfolio and NewBuild installed, but in case you don't, I might as well show you how to download the Lift Excelsior portfolio. You need to go to Integration Projects on the Skyscraper forum. The web address is on the top of the screen there. It's this topic here with the pink photo. Go to the first page. Here's the home page. And this is the link to download it on Google Drive. So it's too large to preview and it's too large to scan for viruses, but it is totally safe. You can just press download there. Download anyway. It's now downloading in the browser. And there is also a dependency, if we go back, of the EJ81 integration project, which is another third-party project to provide for escalators and some data. So we go here, you follow this link to get the post that has the download link. This is hosted on Mediafire. Full release, the top one. Download this file, or this website rather. Looks a bit sketchy, but it is legitimate. You just press that, get rid of the sponsor window, and that is also downloading in the browser. So once the download is finished, you should have these two zips in your downloads folder. Depending on your operating system, it might be a slightly different process for how you make them into folders. But on a Mac, they might open automatically. If they don't, you just click on them to expand them. We got EJ1 and we got Lift Excelsior portfolio. So we go into here. First, let's open the buildings folder. We now need to open the buildings folder of our Skyscraper sim program, which on a Mac is reached by using show package contents on the app. Contents, resources, and buildings. So all this stuff in the buildings folder. We mouse over it. We use Control or Command C to copy it. We click here and we use Control or Command V to paste them into the buildings folder. They've been added. We do the same with the data. Get these files, copy them, paste them in. They've now been added down here. This is the automatic door script, which isn't required for NewBuild but will be required for my hand-coded buildings if you want to run them. We simply Command C that to copy it, and you paste it into the resources folder. So it goes there. It doesn't go in any subfolder. And do the same with the NewBuild folder. Now for the EJ81 data, go into this other zip and do the exact same process. Copy in all the buildings, skip any that are duplicates. Copy the data folders, put them in our data folder, merge any duplicate folders, then all the auxiliary folders, copy them, and put them in resources. We are now ready to begin using NewBuild. So let's click into the NewBuild folder. We've got two files in here as of the current build. In a future build there will be more stuff in here as the script gets more useful and more functionality. For now we have the user manual, which is written instructions for all the stuff that will be in this series of videos. And beside it is the script, which should not be touched. It's just the code that actually makes the NewBuild thing function. So to make our BLD file, that's going to be our tester for using NewBuild, go into the buildings folder, copy and paste any building using Command C and V. I'll go for the simple building. Let's rename it to what we want our building to be called. I'll put a space beside of my title so it appears at the top of the buildings list in Skyscraper. And I'll call it NewBuild Test. Open it up. Control Command A to select everything and backspace to delete the code. We now have a blank slate that we can use. Start coding our building. And here is our BLD file. The first thing we have to do is we need to include the NewBuild script. Do this by typing just a single line. So we do an angled open bracket, include NewBuild /script.txt closed angle bracket. This one line, what it does is sets all the global parameters, includes all the textures, defines the floors, and does all the preliminary work. So as soon as after doing this, you can immediately start making your building. So just a few prerequisites before you use NewBuild. Make sure you have Skyscraper 2.0, not any higher number, not any lower number release. And in newer versions, it doesn't work because of the, well, it might not work because of the preset Earth model. Older versions, it might not support it. So when you open your copy of Skyscraper Sim, it should just say Skyscraper 2.0 and nothing else. I would also recommend, if you're on a Mac or Linux machine, at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. On a Windows machine, at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, because there are a lot of preloaded textures that can be a bit memory intensive. You should have at least some experience working with Skyscraper code before you use NewBuild. You won't need loads, but a baseline level of knowledge should be had, just knowing how commands are processed, the order in which they're processed, floor sections, how they work, textures and coordinates. NewBuild currently only works for brand new buildings. You can't add the NewBuild functions to a pre-existing building yet, but that will be coming in a future build. This is the first ever release of NewBuild at time of making this video, so it could be buggy, so you should be treating it as a kind of eternal beta test. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start a regular Skyscraper Sim floor section. We'll just say floor 0, and then in floor. Put a tab to indent it, make it easier to read. And now you can just type NB underscore build, 2 brackets. Use the left arrow to go between them. And it takes 4 arguments. You just need to set the X and Z coordinates of the bottom left corner of the build, and then state the coordinates of the top right corner of the build. Let's now try and run Skyscraper Sim and see how this looks. So running NewBuild test in Skyscraper Sim, we get a build. So the build command is analogous to the build tool in the old building creator. It adds the floor, the ceiling, external windows, and the internal windows as well, a roof and an underside. It's basically a building part that is the basis for creating a building, and if we no clip outside, we've got the external windows. Caveats regarding the build function: it has to be placed inside a floor section, because these are inline commands. There's some commands in NewBuild that go outside the floor section, but this is not one of them. Like I said before, this is the bottom left position, this is the top right, so easy way to check that. Just make sure that this is less than this, and this is less than this. For your information, the window tiles on the outside of the build, each panel is 6.25 feet wide, so all these numbers should be multiples of 6.25, or easier way to say that is multiples of 25, but you can also do a different amount if you so wish. It just might be a bit messed up in terms of textures. In terms of the floors you can use, if we change this to a floor range by making that word plural, we can go -9 to 99. NewBuild allows 9 basements and 99 above ground floors. You can go lower than that, but you can't go higher. And that's just to make sure the indicators on the lifts always show a 2-digit number, so there's no complications there. And keep in mind when placing these builds that the camera spawn point when you load the building is always the origin point of 0, 0. So if the build includes 0, 0, or it has an end point that's on one of the axes, you might spawn inside a wall, so just keep it in mind. But what if I don't like the textures that were on offer there? So NewBuild has a bunch of texture tools analogous to Choose Paint in Building Creator. So the way this works is there's a default set of textures selected when you load the building, and you can change those by using other inline commands. For example, there's NB textures. It takes a few arguments: floor texture, ceiling texture, wall texture, door texture, and trim texture. So these are basically the textures that are frequently changed. And if you then want to change all the textures, you can use NB all textures. This here is the syntax for that. You got the floor, the ceiling, the cladding. We'll learn about what all these mean a bit later. External windows, internal windows, the interfloor exterior, roof, the footpath, the internal wall, the door, the trim, and the column. To change the textures inside the lifts, you can use NB elif textures, where you have the floor, the ceiling, the cab wall, the front panels, like around the door jambs, the button panels, backs to the button panels, the shaft decor trim, the car door, the shaft door, and the glass door. And if none of those take your fancy, or you don't want to change a bunch of textures at the same time, you can use any of these commands to just change one at a time. Floor texture, ceiling texture, cladding texture, and it's all the same objects that we showed. But what do we put in these arguments? Here in the user's manual, this is where it also says what each texture is used for. It's mostly self-explanatory, but there are a few caveats, like for example the floor texture is also used for stair steps. The internal windows are also used for glass shafts, glass walls, railings and stair balustrades. So this is all here in the manual in case you want to know what each texture is used for. And here you have the list of available textures. These are the texture reference names that you can type in into those texture commands to change the textures. We've got a list of colours, a couple of landscapes, got some bricks, carpets, tiles, marble, wood, some walls, some windows, which currently have limited options, but you can also use custom textures. We won't cover that in this video because it's a bit advanced, but we will in a future video on this mini-series. Preset trim and door textures. The trim is basically the skirting boards and the architraves, and the doors there, and some preset elevator textures. We also have these ones here for the special objects, and there are also shop logos. So I can populate these fields here. If I set the floor texture to carpet 3, the ceiling texture to green, the wall texture to pink, the door texture to any old random door, and then we will set this to brick 4. Really horrible garish palette of textures, but these objects won't be there yet. Let's now load the building. I made a slight mistake there isn't actually a pink texture, but it's not an object that will show. We now have this really horrible selection of textures, just demonstration purposes, and the building is now very, very tall. And this is going to show errors because I typed in the wrong thing, but you can go down and it automatically fills in solid walls for the basement levels. This is all well and good and all, but what if we don't want the building to be a big box? What if we want to add a bit of flavouring and some texturing? So you can use multiple build commands to chain rectangles together. For example, I can copy this, put it underneath. This means this will be created second. Change the coordinates. So once you have your initial shape down, I'd say the best way to find out coordinates in Skyscraper is to just go in here, walk up to a line between these windows to make sure it lines up right, and simply just click this position a few times. See the control panel, and the click position is there. You might need to do some rounding if it's presenting a strange number. Well, in here I can just set that as position 1. Can go along this way, tap there, 100. I have to do this bit myself, so I can just click outside, just go for negative 250. I have to set this to 200 and this to 250 because this is less than that, so otherwise there will be some texture errors. I'm going to change the other ones as well because they're mismatched, but when we reload this building there'll actually be a curious fault. So we have the extra build, but this wall's been left behind. There's no easy way to do that in pure Skyscraper code, like the jumper in the building creator. So the fix, simply to go NB wall fix after the builds. Takes 4 arguments. We just click the endpoint of the affected wall. Note them down here, they can be in any order because there's no textures to mess up. 100 and 200. All that'll do is cut this wall out so you can have a seamless transition of there, but we now have an extra rectangle added to the building. So that is one way to add a bit of flavouring to the building. But what we can also do is use the NB inset command. This is quite a tricky one to get right, but it does produce some neat results. So now I'll just do a tester inset. I'll actually start a new floor section, so it only shows on floors 0 to 50. And the command's called NB inset. We need to set the coordinates in the same way as we set the coordinates of the build. Again, make sure we conform to the rule that each pair is less than the other, or the first pair is less than the second pair. We've got a few Boolean values which are true and false. I'll say true to create a path, which creates a path at the bottom of the inset, which basically, if you're doing like a floating one, you don't want a floor at the bottom, you set that to false. I'll say create roof to true as well. To create the roof at the top, if it was exposed to the top, he wouldn't want a roof, so he'd set that to false. There's 4 booleans to display each side, or front is south, left west, right east, and the back is the north. I'll set them all to true. This is going in the middle. It's an internal courtyard that's going to be used for courtyards, balconies, and actual insets on the side. And then, even though we're in a floor section, we need to state manually the top and bottom floor so it knows what floor to create the top and bottom panels on. The building is reloaded. We now have the inset in the middle. We created a large courtyard that goes up a certain amount of floors. We've got windows on all sides. Let's create a nice bit of shape for our building as well. I could also add another one over here, which could use some more interesting tactics. We'll take our NB inset and we'll copy it. But here we'll change the coordinates from -200 to maybe -175, making sure to use the same multiples. This time we're going to turn off the roof because it's going up to 99. And we'll use a Boolean logic rule to keep it above -1 so it doesn't cut into the basements. And we'll also need to turn off the front side because it's going to be on the outside of the building. And also add to the top floor. So you kind of flub that there, actually cut into the bit that extends out here. We have the inset. Goes right the way up there. So we've got a quite nice little start to a building going here. So I think we should now add our first elevator. So introducing the NB elevator command. Now this is one of the commands I was saying about. It's not inline, it goes outside the floor section and preferably close to the end of the script. It takes a number of parameters. First thing we have to say is the lowest served floor. I'll go for 0 and highest served floor of 99. Let's go minus 99, expressed from bottom to top. Now onto the fixture set. So there are 20 numbered fixture sets that you can add to your elevator. We've got a number of Kone, we've got Kleeman, some Dewhurst Advanced, which is also just Dewhurst with a custom voice, Arona, MP, ThyssenKrupp, Mitsubishi, some Schindlers, some Otis, and some more Schindlers. To get the value for this parameter, we just pass in whichever number corresponds to the fixture set that we want. So I will go for a Schindler FIMXB, or B even, which is number 20. Cab size, you can say 1 to get a narrow lift, 2 to get a normal size passenger lift, or 3 for a big goods lift. Let's go for a normal size passenger lift, which is number 2. Number of lifts and shafts can be 1, 2, 3, or 4. You can get bigger groups by chaining multiple lifts together because you can have unlimited elevators in your building. I'll just go for 1 lift for now. Center X and center Z. And I've got a position in mind, 81.25 and -175, which was obtained by pressing on a position. These can cut through walls, cut through atriums, cut through the side of the building. They can be placed anywhere and still look well. So these next 4 parameters can be a bit tricky. These are basically which features are on each wall. So if you're familiar with being a building creator, and there's 6 different types of things you can add to the wall of the lift. So here 1 refers to just a blank metal wall, 2 is a glass wall, 3 a blank metal wall with a button panel, 4 glass wall and buttons, 5 is a metal door, and 6 is a glass door. Look at the south here, which I'll have as a glass door. In the west, I'll have an empty metal wall. In the east, I'll have wall and buttons, and in the north, I'll have a glass wall, which is number 2. Shaft texture. You just use a texture reference name. I'll go for blue. For these last 2 parameters, we'll get onto them later. Now I'll just say 2 or true and 1, and then this parameter is optional, so I will remove it. And when we reload, you can see that it has spawned in a lift. So they spawn on the bottom floor by default. If you have just a simplex, if you have multiple lifts in the shaft, it'll actually distribute them between the bottom and the top floor. So when you're making custom floors, which we'll get onto in a minute, you don't want to ever skip the bottom and top, or they'll spawn on non-existent floors. You don't need to number the lifts. You will have already chosen how many buttons there are. And basically just fully autonomous lift creation. Speed is also set by how many floors are served. Fully custom sounds. That's a lot of buttons. Right down at the basement level. This was not a good choice of textures. But there we have our first lift created using NewBuild. Now let's go for a slightly more complex configuration. So for our more complex configuration, we'll just make another elevator command. And up below the other, create a second. So I'll make go from only 0 to 80 perhaps. We'll go for number 10 in terms of the fixture set. Go for cab size 3 to show you what the big goods lift looks like. Multiple lifts will go up to 4. Now when you do multiple lifts, you want to make sure you only create doors on one side of the cab, because it uses that to learn what orientation the lift should be in. Also regarding doors, if you have just like a single lift of type 2 or 3, you can have doors on any side. Just leave space for the buttons. If you're making a narrow lift though, don't try to make the doors on the wide side, because there's no support for that. The trim will be too small, so I'll just leave them exactly as they are. I'll create 2 panels just for funsies. We'll pick a texture. For this one, let's introduce first changing this number. So this number is basically the floor, what floors are served. So 1 is for all floors, 2 is expressed non-stop, so just bottom and top only. 3 takes a bit more work and is custom floors, like what you have in the building creator. Now to show 2. Back in the building, we now have these lifts. So as you can see, they're pretty nicely split between spawning on the bottom and spawning on the top. It's made some Arona lifts. Now let's introduce custom floors. So we will create one more elevator call. Go for just a simpler configuration. We'll just go from 0 to 2. Select a fixture set from 19. I think that's Schindler miniseries. And let's create a multitude of different doors. So if I do south, that's not correct. South, west and east are all going to have a door, and then we'll do buttons on the other side. Pick a shaft texture. Now to do custom floors, this boolean needs to be set to false. What this does is it automatically creates exits on the lift. You don't want that if you're making custom floors, otherwise there'll be a bunch of doors for floors that aren't served, potentially. And also be doors on all sides. And we will set this to 3. After that, you then need to state basically how many floor buttons there's going to be. I will start by making just 3 floor buttons, and that's as an extra parameter. So now we do NB button. We need to make a button for every floor we want served, straight after the elevator command. This is 0 to 2, I'll just keep it simple. 1 and 2. Now we'll make a floor section, floor 0. We put a command in here, NB elev exits. Here, all lowercase, either south, just any of the compass directions where there is a door. If I say south for 0, 1 will be west, 2 will be east. We should get a lift where a different door opens on every floor. I accidentally made it the narrow cab, so bugged out in first go, but here we have a lift with 3 doors. And if we fly up, it opens on a different side on every floor. This can also be used to skip floors and also to make different shaft door textures per floor. So for example here, if I expand this up to level 10, but keep it as 3 buttons, like I said, do 0, 7, 10, change the floor sections. Then on 10 I can say NB shaft door texture. I think it's called lift door 2. Let's do the LF trim texture using all these commands from earlier. I'll set it to something horribly garish, but demonstration purposes again. So another thing that's cool about NewBuild is if you create a low-rise example of an older type of lift, like for example this Schindler M series, you'll actually make a hydraulic lift instead of MRL traction. Be a bit more realistic, but I've made this a bit too tall now, so it's going to be traction. And also all the other floors that we didn't specify anything for have been skipped. See, we now have this actually pretty cool looking landing door set up on the top. One thing I probably have to mention is when we're using texture commands like this, make sure after you use them, always reset them to what they were before. It's just a lift wall. Because otherwise, when you go to make a lift after that, it's going to keep using these textures when you only want them on floor 10 for this lift. So that's enough about elevators for now. We will certainly revisit them next video to teach some more advanced concepts probably, or practically to make a building. So now, just to round off this already pretty long video, that's not correct, but that'll be it. We will just teach some more concepts that you might be familiar with from the building creator, but are also possible in NewBuild, starting off with the NB atrium command. So that's the syntax. Let's first get some coordinates. So just like the builds, make sure that any lower numbers come first, otherwise we will get texture errors. You get options of whether or not to display the size. This is for if the atrium is going to butt up against a wall or something, so there's no texture fighting. Manually state the top and bottom floors, and then one final flag, which can be true or false, states whether or not to create the railings. If we reload now, we should get a nice atrium in the building. Here we have the atrium. So these function pretty much the same as the building creator atriums. It's picked this horrible red colour I've selected. And yeah, nice cut between the floors. And to finish off, let's teach some walls and doors. So I think it'd be nice to have a wall across this bit. So I will click this position, note the coordinates, and creating a wall in this could not be simpler. So do just NB wall, and you enter the coordinates. They can be in any order. This will make not just the wall, but also a piece of trim along the bottom, like a skirting board. The bit that's a bit trickier is the NB door command. First you say the coordinates. I'll just place it at the middle of this wall. Make sure it's on top of the wall and it comes after the wall is created. Otherwise it won't cut. For the purpose of teaching, we'll create a double door first. So I type either 1 or 2 next to say single or double. State the direction, which is either front, left, right, back. And then close it out. So there you have it. You've got the doorway, bricks around the side, got a door saddle. Because it's double, it's got the different textures. It's got a bright red wall. A single door is made slightly differently. Change that to 1, you just need to add 1 extra parameter that's either left or right, which is basically the side, like the side the handle's on this side here. But at different coordinates, so there's no fighting. And also the single door, sometimes it's a different texture based on which preset you use. Now we have the single door. That is not all the types of doors you can have though, because you can also add a revolving door, which I think I'll add over here. The revolving door command is even simpler. NB revolving door. You say the X, you say the Z, then you say false if it faces front or back, or true for left and right. This will use the elevator cab textures, so that's what you change if you want a custom skin on the revolving door. We've got the revolving door. You just need to nudge into it, then you make it outside. Might want to put a boolean rule on it though, stop that from happening. Yeah, this is our weird and wonderful building, and this has been an introduction to coding buildings using NewBuild. Hope you enjoyed the video. There will be more like this very shortly, when we delve into more advanced features. You can learn how to make shop fronts and escalators and staircases, all the other features I have not shown in this video. Thanks for watching, hope to see you in the next video.